My name is Roger Richards. My rank, or my rate, was Quartermaster Second Class, Submarine Qualified, U.S. Navy. So I got on a plane, went to San Diego, and I got to San Diego, and there was no Spinax there. It just wasn't there. They said, well, it's on Westpac. I said, well, what's Westpac? No, I really didn't know. But anyhow, it was a Western Pacific cruise. So they kept me there at Ballast Point. That's the end of the world in San Diego. You can't go any further than that. It's out on the point. And so they kept me there in a transit barracks for 9 or 10 days. There's something magic about the numbers 8, 9, and 10. In the Navy, transit ideas. So they left me there and put me doing menial jobs, in which I've done many menial jobs before. They had me scraping paraffin off of a floor in the mess hall with a 1-inch paint scraper. Now, I know that they've got machines to do that that'll do it probably in 30 minutes. Well, they had me working in there for a couple of days. And I didn't feel like I was really getting anywhere in my Navy career by scraping paraffin off of the floor. So they came to all the guys in there and said, we need some Navy drivers. Would you be interested in going downtown and taking the driving test and getting a Navy driver's license? And at that point, I would have done anything to get off my hands and knees in that mess hall. So I raised my hand and said I'd be happy to go down and take that test. So they provided transportation for all of us, for the ones of us that volunteered, go down to Pier 3 or Pier 4, whatever it was, Broadway Pier, downtown. I was the last one out. And by the time I got out, the last Navy bus had already left to go back to the base. So I called the guy on the phone, was in charge of us in transit, told him my problem. He said, well, I can't send another bus to get you. You'll have to find your way here. I had no money. As it turns out, my pay records had been lost, so I wasn't able to get paid. Also, my shot records were lost, but that's for later in the story. So my shot records are missing, my pay records are missing, I had no money, and I'm downtown San Diego. All I had was a pack of cigarettes. So I'm standing there. Fortunately, I smoked. I was smoking a cigarette, and a guy came walking out of the same building and said, hey, can I have a cigarette? And I said, well, sure. I gave him a cigarette. Well, turns out he was a driver for an admiral. And I told this guy my problem. He said, well, this admiral I'm driving for is a really nice guy. I said, I bet we're heading back out that way. He can give you a ride at least part of the way. And sure enough, the admiral came out of the building, and his driver explained to him. He said, yeah, I'd be glad to. So I explained to him my problem once I was riding in the back seat with the admiral. I wish I could remember his name because he was one of the good guys. I explained it to him, and he seemed very interested in my story, in that a person in command wouldn't help someone who was under his command, wouldn't give me a ride back to the base. So anyhow, when I got out of the car, the admiral waved to the I called him Jerkface because I can't remember his name. So Petty Officer Jerkface looked at me and said, how'd you get back here with us? I said, well, I rode with my friend the admiral. Your friend the admiral? I said, well, he's not really my friend, he's my uncle. Which wasn't exactly the truth, but I mean, it seemed like my uncle. My uncle was a nice guy too. Well, he was very upset with this. Apparently, word got back. I told the admiral what Petty Officer Jerkface's name was too. Yes, I ratted him out because he had been really not very good to me in the 3 or 4 days that I'd been there. So the next day, Petty Officer Jerkface asked me, all right, what did you tell that guy? I said, I just told him the truth. He said, well, look, I got to assign you to another job. Apparently that guy doesn't like you scraping paraffin off of the floor with a 1-inch blade anymore. So he said, what kind of job do you want? I said, well, I've been watching guys in the motor pool. I'd like to get in that. He said, okay, I'm in charge of that too. So they put me in the motor pool. I did a pretty good job in there. I was washing cars, cleaning tires, vacuuming out cars and Jeeps for the admirals and all. One day, he said, okay, I really like the work you're doing, Richards. So I tell you what, I'm going to give you the admiral's Jeep. It was a different admiral, not my uncle, my fake uncle. But he said the Admiral's Jeep needs to have the air filter cleaned. Do you know how to do that? And I said, yeah. I thought it was kind of odd that he'd say air filter clean, because where I came from, we just replaced them, put a new air filter in. I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. Well, I've been looking for a way to get back at this guy anyhow. I'm not the vindictive sort, but he had already caused me a lot of trouble. And I knew it was his fault that they were just holding me there. I needed to get to the Spinax. So anyhow, he said, well, you got to have this thing done by noon. That's when the Admiral's going to be over here himself, and he and his driver are going to pick it up. And he said, can you do that? And I said, sure, I can do that. And so he left. When he came back, he started swearing at me a lot. He was going crazy. He said, what in the blank are you doing? I said, I'm cleaning the air filter, just like you said. Well, actually what I had done was remove the carburetor and was washing it in a bucket full of soap and water. He didn't appreciate that much. He said, you were supposed to clean the air filter. I said, that's what I'm doing. I'm cleaning that air filter. Well, he ran me out of there, and within just a few hours, I had my orders from the Nereus, the subtender that was out in the bay there. I had my orders from them to get out, and I was getting out several days earlier than I would have gotten out. And I don't really know whatever happened to Petty Officer Jerkface after that. And well, anyhow, I got back at him after all the pain that he had caused me. So I got out and got a free trip to San Francisco, a 2-day pass in San Francisco before I was supposed to go to Clark Field to fly somewhere.